The achievement gap between Black students and their peers in advanced academic programs is an issue that is yet to be solved. In light of the University of Kentucky's 100 years of integration, my group members and I wanted to investigate what could be done to solve the problem in our own Lewis Honors College and in our city of Lexington, Kentucky. In this vlog, I'm going to be sharing my personal experiences as a Black girl who took advanced courses all her life. My first experience with advanced education was definitely the gifted program in my elementary school. Like Kinley mentions in Vlog 1, a lot of separation between kids of different races tends to begin here. I was one of the only 2 Black students within my whole grade who was part of the Gifted and Talented program. I was too young to realize what this would mean further along the road when the kids from my elementary school moved on to the same middle school. As to be expected, some kids fell off the Gifted and Talented train because they simply couldn't keep up. Others couldn't even join because they weren't on the same learning level as the rest of us and therefore didn't qualify as quote-unquote gifted. As such, at the end of the 7th grade, I was the only Black student in my middle school taking advanced courses. In Vlog 2, Lily talked to you all about the racial imbalances in secondary school, which I can attest to personally. I grew up in the Fayette County public school system, which just so happens to be the system my group is focusing on in our project. In FCPS, being gifted or talented gives you the ability to join academic programs. For example, at my high school, there was a program called the Liberal Arts Academy. A lot of these FCPS high school programs require students to take AP classes, or at least strongly encourage it, so a lot of my AP classes were made up of students in those programs. But like I said, most of these kids were in gifted and talented in primary school, and by secondary school, a lot of Black students had fallen off, so I was once again the lone Black student in most of my high school AP classes. Of course, my experience in AP isn't a one-case scenario. The lack of Black representation in AP classes is something that's been occurring across the nation for quite some time. A source by journalist Sonali Kohli from the journal Quartz reveals a startling fact, that Black students are the most underrepresented racial group in AP classes across the nation. This is why I'm confident in saying I can use my experiences to speak on a broader scale. The trend is clearly, and unfortunately, national. Much like how the Black makeup of my advanced classes decreased from primary school to secondary school, this problem remained when I entered the University of Kentucky. I joined the Lewis Honors College in hopes of getting a more rigorous college education, but unfortunately many of my Black peers did not. This, of course, is systematic. Academic researcher William Darity Jr. found in his report on the Black achievement gap that students who took more advanced courses at earlier stages of their lives are more likely to seek that same level of rigor further on in their academic careers. Roughly translated, that means that the kids who weren't in advanced courses in primary and secondary schools are way less likely to join an honors college and university. And unfortunately, a lot of Black students are in that non-advanced groups. So I've basically gone through a lot of my school career being the only Black student. This has been difficult for me in a lot of ways. Growing up, a lot of my white friends lacked the cultural sensitivity to understand why I wore braids or made fun of me for my Afrocentric hairstyles. It was isolating to be a kid that looked different from everyone else. As I got older, the problem became more heavily based around class discussions. Like Meg mentioned in Vlog 3, there were times when she had class discussions about Black issues in a classroom full of entirely white students. While it may seem like it'd be better to have one Black student in there at least, it actually isn't really that much better. During class discussions about Black topics, I often felt pressured to hold back what I really thought because the rest of the class had a different opinion. I also feel that too much pressure was placed on me to be the sole representative for my race. This was even perpetuated by my teachers, who would call on me to ask my thoughts during discussions on Black issues when I wasn't contributing much to the conversation. It wasn't even until I reached a certain level of maturity that I was able to look back on all my school experiences and really cringe at memories like this. Now that I'm older, I've spent plenty of time thinking about ways to fix this issue. I especially pondered it considering my university's celebration of their 70 years of integration. I was wondering how I, a Black student, managed to feel so isolated from my Black peers when I was in a quote-unquote integrated university. I also wondered why my Black peers weren't joining advanced classes midway, like during middle school or high school. But during my literature search, I came across an interesting tweet that gave me even more insight into the situation. Researcher Dania Francis of UMass Boston University was the tweeter, and she directed fellow Twitter users to one of her recent studies. In this study, she explained the different rationale that scholars hypothesize that Black students use when deciding not to take advanced accelerated classes. Some say it's peer pressure, and others say it's performance anxiety. But Francis gives us an alternative idea, that Black students don't join accelerated classes because there's no one in their classes that looks like them. Therefore, they believe they'll experience isolation if they are to join an advanced class. After reading this, it felt painfully obvious to me what the solution was. The only way to increase diversity is to have diversity in the first place. Allow me to explain my solution further. As you can probably tell from the earlier vlogs and my own, low Black representation in accelerated programs is a systematic issue. It follows us from primary to secondary and even to post-secondary school, and has been going on for years. In fact, the Harvard Law Review details in an old report that the presence of advanced classes in the first place is deeply rooted in historical practice that was created in order to keep Black and white students separated in schools after Brown versus Board. This practice is known as tracking. The rationale behind tracking was that if you separated students based on quote-unquote innate learning ability, rather than on race, you could maintain a segregated school environment by placing white students in separate classes, even though the school was technically integrated. This is how the advanced instruction system evolved, and even though we're decades past its birth, Black students are still segregated in advanced courses, even if their school or university is fully integrated. What are we to do then, when a system that was designed for keeping Black students out of advanced classes continues to work despite our best efforts? Through this series of vlogs, my group members and I are hoping that Lexington schools and legislators will seriously consider our suggested solutions, especially starting an early intervention.